Hello and welcome to the Scishow Talk Show, a day on Scishow where we talk to interesting people about interesting things. Today's interesting person is Blake D. Pastino.
Now I have to be interesting.
I'm sorry that I did
That's
that to you.
Great.
Blake is the chief editor of Scishow. He sees every word that happens on Scishow before it happens.
And some words that you don't see.
Lots of those as well. Lots of those as well. So Blake, in your spare time, not only do you do like Scishow, write about science all the time, then you go home and you write more about science.
Yeah, because I get home, I'm like, I kind of feel like I miss writing about science.
Yeah, you don't get to do that enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this other side project called Western Digs that I started a couple of years ago, and it's about archaeology and paleontology in the American West. So I couldn't figure out why I was doing both of those things at once. There's a sort of backstory to it. I used to, before I met you, which, as all meaningful relationships, began with a Craigslist ad. Before I met you, I was working for National Geographic's website on their daily news service, and I covered archaeology for them, but I don't have any training in archaeology or paleontology. It's just that everyone else I worked with wanted to write about animals or space, and I couldn't blame them. But all these interesting story leads kept coming through, and I just gravitated to those things. And then once I started working for you, I just sort of missed writing about it, and I realized that basically if it's dead, it's more interesting to me.
Oh, you like dead things.
Or another way of looking at it, which is how I prefer to put it, is I think they're both really interesting ways of using science to understand history, and those are both things I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, we spend more time thinking about the life that is currently on the planet, which is good because we have to know about that life and understand it. But there's been much more life so far than there is currently.
Yes.
So there is, in many ways, much more to learn by looking at societies that happened before recorded history and also biology that happened before, bones, like non-mineralized bones.
Yeah, because in a way they're both about context. If you understand what's come before you, then you understand how we got to where we are as a culture or as an organism or civilization. And then just the way I put it is that once you have a better understanding of history scientifically, I think it makes us better equipped to understand our place in the present better and maybe make better decisions, more informed decisions about the future.
So we should point out, as we do on Scishow, that archaeology and paleontology are not the same thing at all.
Yes.
What are the differences?
Both ways of using science to understand history. They both use stratigraphy, which is the sort of layering of the Earth to figure out the farther down you go, the farther back in time you go. But archaeology is really a division of anthropology. So if you want to become an archaeologist, you have to degree in anthropology to figure out how you think about your own culture and how you think about other cultures and how you investigate them. And then you get into the field work. Whereas paleontologists usually study biology and then geology also, so they can similarly read the earth to figure out what they're seeing once they find animal remains. But a lot of paleontology is actually taxonomy.
Right.
And so there are lots of arguing over fossils and what really belongs where in the tree of life.
Hard to do a genome sequence on a piece of rock. Yes. So you have Utah news for us.
See, on my vacation time, when I'm not working for you, my idea of a vacation is going to archaeology conferences. And so I interviewed some archaeologists at the SAA, the Society of American Archaeology conference just last month, and learned about what is probably going to turn out to be the largest deposit of prehistoric gambling artifacts ever found in North America. And it was found
I'm super interested in old games and these people have always played games and the things that we.
One of the things I learned actually in talking to these guys is the difference between gaming and gambling, because people use one as sort of a euphemism for another, or I thought they did, and gaming is just sort of the history of playing games.
Yeah.
And then gambling is when you wager on it. And it was so these artifacts actually seem to cover different gaming traditions throughout the American West. And they think that's because the people who settled in this cave, who lived there for just a short span, about 20 to 40 years in the late 1200s, were migrants from subarctic Canada. And so they had spent a generation or two getting to where they were in the Great Basin, and their population either included or was informed by all the other populations that they had traveled through. So they have cane, like the most common artifacts were cane dice made of dried cane. And they're marked on one side and unmarked on the other.
Cane?
Oh, like a reed, something that grows in the water.
Yeah.
And they dry it and mark it, and then they cut it into pieces, and they could throw it in handfuls of 3 to 8. And then, depending on how many of what kind show face up, that's your score. And then whoever reaches the predetermined score wins. What's interesting is that gaming, according to like ethnographers and people who have done historic accounts of a lot of indigenous cultures in the American West, dice games tended to be played almost exclusively by women. And what the archaeologists think was going on in this cave was that women were gaming and the men were gambling. So they would gamble on who was winning the contests. And in this particular time, in this area, in this part of history, in the late 1200s is when a lot of the Southwest was suffering a really severe drought that shaped a lot of Western American prehistory. And the people who lived in this cave, and they're generally called the promontory culture just because they're called the promontory caves, were doing very well. They were almost like plain-style bison hunters. Huge piles of bones of bison, pronghorn, and elk. And a couple of kilometers away, there are the Fremont people, come from a different culture, who had given up on farming by this point because the climate had gotten too arid, and they were foraging. But they live almost within sight of each other. And there are indications that the cultures eventually mingled. And what the archaeologists think is going on in this cave is that they kind of brokered their relationships through gaming and gambling. And so there's one really affluent group of people who lived in the caves, and then people who lived, the Fremont who lived farther away. They knew each other, they communicated with each other, and they had to broker some kind of relationship where they could share the same space. But the people who, the promontory, felt safe with their resources, and the Fremont knew that the promontory would help them out if they needed to. And so they figured that out by gambling for whatever reasons. The part of it might have to do with the fact that it's just inherently random, like the outcome is random. So it's competitive, but it's not violent. And there's an element of that neither side can control, and so it seems more fair that way. And
so they were actually able to determine how the game worked based on the game pieces?
Based on historic accounts of the Crow tribe and how they do dice games. And the dice were very similar. But the thing is, they found thousands and thousands. I mean, they stopped counting after a while, so they just sort of did an analysis of, based on what they have excavated, which is just a couple of hundred, they think there are probably 10,000 to 18,000 dice just in that cave. In the same way that there are probably hundreds of kilograms worth of butchered bones in there. And I'd written about the same cave last year because they had found more than 200 moccasins abandoned in that cave, and they were almost all children's moccasins.
Oh, that's creepy.
It is creepy, but what the archaeologists concluded was that as another sign of the promontory people's sort of relative affluence, because they had a really large young population. So again, they were really well fed. They had like the time and resources that they could invest in families, whereas other people who lived nearby didn't have those resources, and so they weren't as successful. So really interesting stories in everything that's in the ground.
Yeah.
Whether it's human history or natural history. And it makes me think that, we someday archaeologists will be digging up us, or maybe
not
laptops or phones. And I don't know what kind of archaeological record our work is going to result in, but every day everybody is making history, literally.
Well, I hope that future archaeologists will just be able to read our blog posts and watch Scishow videos to learn about our culture.
That's true. Yeah.
Let's hope that the internet remains a thing. So,
I think it's a fad.
Think it's a fad?
Yeah,
I give it headed out
6 months.
I am worried about your job, if that's the case.
Yeah, I just hope I'd leave a good-looking fossil.
Well, you've got the pins in your leg. They'll be interested in that.
Yes. Yeah, let them figure that out. That's a buy me a beer sometime and tell you all about it.
Cool. Do you want to meet an animal?
I would love to.
Okay. All right. We have 2 Tupperwares down here. Oh, there's prettiness happening inside.
Oh, so pretty.
Here is CS. CS is a corn snake. She's very friendly. You can hold her.
Okay. Oh, you feel like a snake.
She's a snake.
Well, I hadn't held a lot of snakes before Scishow talk show started happening.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
now I'm like, oh, this is what snakes feel like. They're
Yeah.
cold and they're strong and they grab you. And
Not slimy, dry,
no,
smooth.
not slimy, dry. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really calm, easygoing.
The main thing is cold. I'm just like, they always feel
They
so.
always feel so cold. Yeah.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
Yeah, just
Where are
put
you
your hand
going?
under her chin. Perfect. Yeah, so these guys are mostly terrestrial. Corn snakes are found in the southeastern United States and then down into Central America a little bit. So in the wild, they don't quite look like this. They have similar colors, except their pattern is different. Take a look at her pattern. See how she has spots down? Yeah, and then her belly is just white, completely white. So the normal color is going to be more of this blotchier, and then underneath on their belly, they're going to have a checkered pattern, black and white checkered pattern. So this is actually a color, a pattern face called, this is actually a pattern called motley. So we as humans have artificially selected for unique colors and interesting patterns on them. So.
Oh, so this isn't. Where does she come from?
Animal Wonders.
Yeah, was born there.
I see.
Was born at Animal Wonders. Yeah.
I think I saw CS like the day she was born.
Yeah. She's grown, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's about 4 years old. We rescued 2 corn snakes, and they had eggs.
And they were bred for these
They
traits.
had eggs.
They had
Is
eggs.
that what it's called?
They had eggs. And this is the color that we got.
Well,
Stuck.
She's got me now.
Yeah, you're stuck there. Like, behave, human.
Stop moving around. I'm gonna stick my tail
So-
down your shirt.
These are her parents. Blake, are you ready to hold snake?
Yes.
Okay.
Born ready.
All right, so this is her dad. He moves around a little bit more than CS does.
Beautiful.
So he's a little more squiggly,
handsome.
a little handsome. Yeah. But notice, look at his color pattern.
It's pretty similar.
Similar.
The spots,
Yeah.
but a little bit darker, has a little bit more black in there.
Uh-huh.
So she's hypomelanistic. They're both hypomelanistic. You're doing good. Yeah. He just does his thing. I know, he's a little bit more unwieldy. Bigger. He's about 8 years old. This is CS's mother.
Oh.
Different color,
Wow.
right?
Different.
So she takes after her father, it looks like.
Well, yeah, I mean, the genes in there, who knows what kind of young she will have, so who knows what genes she's got going in there. But this is an aneurysthric, so we've gotten rid of all of the red pigments in there. And as they get older, they get a little bit of their yellow back. But they look these different gray colors there. All right.
Ooh, that's pretty.
So now we have
Ooh.
Saffron. And Saffron is what they would call a butter corn snake. But take a look at his pattern.
Yeah. Well, that's different. But it's
Different colors, but look at the pattern.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
pattern is different. So this is the normal pattern.
okay.
So if he had all the same pigments as these guys, which he doesn't, then he would be a normal looking corn snake. Normal. But he is a normal pattern with what they call a butter corn snake. Buttercorn?
Buttercorn.
Get it? Yeah.
It looks like
Yeah.
buttered corn. Also, Saffron is an apt name. You're
Yeah.
getting another snake added
Hi.
to your collection.
Woo!
Why are they called corn snakes?
Good question.
They
All
live
right.
in cornfields?
They live in cornfields. Good job. Now, in the past, the farmers actually thought that they were eating their corn for a very
Lies.
short time, and so they actually eradicated the snakes,
Oh,
and
come on.
they lost
What-
so much
have
of their
you-
corn.
Have you ever met a snake? Do snakes eat corn? What do snakes eat, you guys?
Old wives' tales and not science. So we hold up science here, but they didn't.
I love that idea of like imagining a snake just like eating a whole ear of corn, like.
Oh, like that. I was thinking they would take one kernel at a time.
Also ludicrous.
So yeah, the corn fields were not good after they got rid of all the snakes because they were helping out
Right.
eating all the mice and rats and other rodents that were eating the corn. These guys, I learned them as Elafa guttatus, which that was their scientific name, where they've just recently been reclassified as Pantherophis guttatus. And that's because Elaphi was paraphyletic, which means that it's like convergent evolution, where there's different histories. They look very similar, but they came from different places. They originated from different places. So these guys, they're in a new group. They are more closely related to king snakes than they are to the old world rat snakes. So I find that's really interesting. There are some rat snakes down in central United States, southern central United States, that are part of the same group as these guys. Even though they're called rat snakes, they're not really. Not related to the old world ones. But I think that's really neat how we're going back and we're doing genome studies and realizing
Finding out
that.
how wrong we were.
Exactly, so wrong.
Domino and CS and Saffron and, oh shoot.
Phineas.
Thanks for joining us on Scishow Talk Show. Jessi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You can find Jessi's exploits at her wonderful place of Animal Wonders at Animal Wonders Montana on YouTube. And Blake, you can see a ton of his work right here on Scishow, but also at westerndigs.org, where he talks about Western paleontology and archaeology, which you should, because he doesn't have enough to do.
Too many hours in a day.
And they both have new merch at dftba.com. You have for a while, but Blake, we just added some of your stuff for Western Digs. T-Rex, available now.
Not historically accurate.
No.
Or anatomically.
And thanks everyone who's watching for watching. We love to make Scishow talk shows for you because we get to play with snakes. If you want to continue getting smarter with us, learning about the world, and seeing cool stuff, you can go to youtube.com/scishow and subscribe.